we don't. I think we're good to go.
Anymore, I told Chris that if I zero and jump in the sheets.
Good morning, everybody. We are set to begin the October 14th meeting of Ed Services at exactly 7:30 a.m. So, we are moving letter B, discussion of ELL research project up before letter A, director updates. So,
Perfect. And it doesn't look like there is anyone here for public input, so
No.
we will go ahead. First and foremost, I'm going to introduce Daniela Castiglione, who is one of our ML teachers at the high school. She was approached last spring to do a research project through University of Wisconsin-Madison, and the topic being around the use of AI with translanguaging. She is herself a student at UW, and then was also working on some additional licensure through UW. And she had some folks from UW and also from CISA who were in her classroom and commended her for her work with our multi-language learners in the district, and reached out to her for some interest in doing this research project. Essentially, and I'm going to ask you to interrupt me when I get this and make any incorrect statements. Essentially, what they're looking to do is take a look at the work she does with her students in translanguaging. And translanguaging is essentially the ability for students to be using both of their languages to make meaning of the content that's being presented. And the researcher in particular is looking at different AI tools that can help support translanguaging for students who are multilingual learners. So essentially what the researcher would be doing is coming into the classroom. She has a class of students who are strictly multilanguage learners, come into her classroom and observe the work that she is doing with her students on translanguaging, potentially interview some of the students in her classroom as well, and then using that with the body of other research that she's doing to support conclusions and support using AI and helping with translanguaging in the future. The research project would solely be for students whose parents give express written consent. And in the agenda, I did put in all of the consent forms that UW has would require before they would even start the project. So parents would have to give consent to this. If parents didn't give consent, as you can see, there would be no repercussions to the students at all. And it would just be an opportunity for us to continue our learning and help support the university in the learning that they are doing as well. Donnie, do you have anything that you would like to add? How'd I do?
You did beautifully.
Thank you.
I did not add anything else to it.
Excellent. Does anybody have any specific questions for her about that? We just want to ensure that the board is aware of this potential research project as it does involve. You'll also notice that there is the IRB permission, which is, I don't even know what IRB stands for, International Research Board.
Yes.
Which any researcher has to do to prove there would be no harm to the research subjects. And you can see that the UW IRB approval is in the agenda as well.
any questions?
So this is just for information. This is not moving forward to the board. This is just something that you're going to be sending out to the family.
So we have two ways to go. We could either do a resolution at the October board meeting, sort of approving that we're moving forward with this, or this can be an information to the board only. When I look at the policy for research in our schools, it does state that we would support it if we eventually get knowledge back and if it's like beneficial to both parties with that. And we did feel like that was the case here. But we just wanted to ensure that the board was aware of it, answer any questions that the board may have, and then if the Ed Services Committee wants to move it to resolution to the October board meeting, we can do that as well.
I would recommend we do that.
Okay. I actually pre-populated my action items, and that was one of them.
Okay. David, Linda, are you comfortable with that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. All right,
And the only thing I would ask is that if we have questions before the October board meeting, that folks give me a heads up so we can pass them along to Daniela and we can pass them along to UW as well for that. So I do want to commend Daniela because it's a huge honor that they're asking her to do it. And it's really because of the strong instructional practices they saw in her classroom that they were interested in coming in to do that. So I think it's a huge kudos to her. And I really have to say that I think that the work that the ML team has done at the high school has shown dividends by some of the access score results that we saw back last year. So
I would also like to chime in that our state report card also reflects very strong growth in our ML population as well.
Absolutely. That's exciting. And I think it's something that folks should be very proud of. So thank you very much. That was quick. And Donnie, you are welcome to stay for as much as you'd like to, or if you'd like to get back to high school, you are welcome
I have
to
to
do
get
that.
back to that.
Just one quick question.
Oh, yeah.
How long do you intend to do this project? Is it beginning and ending date?
They will just observe me about maybe 3 or 4 times. It's approximately by the end of the year. Originally when they approached me, they wanted to start last year in March. So I had 2 observers come and observe me due to licensure. So they needed to supervise me in that process. And I was approached to do it in March, and they wanted to observe within those times. And they specified that it would be maybe about 3 or 4 times that they would observe me. So it's very short study.
So other students could, potential education students could come and watch this as well, right?
Correct. Yes, correct. Ideally, the researchers will observe me, so their team will come and observe. They have done this study with other schools as well. And so in a presentation I share with Jenny, they do already have some preliminary results about the study and what they have seen with the AI apparatus they are looking at using. So I think this is a very positive thing for the ML community. And it also speaks highly of what the students are able to do as well in terms of language and gaining second language acquisition, meaning English.
Good, great.
I did have one question. When I had read that ahead of time, I know you assign numbers to the students instead of their names for
Yes.
confidentiality. So when you're meeting with them though, you know, are you saying their names and then do those have to be like edited out then, or how does that work exactly?
Yes, most likely in all the research studies, they do not provide, those names do not get into the research study. They usually change the names or they refer to students with the numbers, yes.
Okay, but I mean, like when the researchers are interacting with the students, they're probably saying their names?
The researchers, from my perspective,
Yeah,
or in my understanding, they will not be interacting. They are solely there to observe the language practices
Got it,
of
okay.
the teacher and the students.
okay,
So they are looking at how the students interact with me, how they interact with the content in their class. They are not interacting with the researchers at all. If there is, and there has not been, from my understanding, researchers can ask students, but I would be inclined to tell Jenny if they wanted to interview students. Frankly, I believe that their sole purpose is to just observe my instruction and my students.
got it. Okay, thank you so much.
And then one other brief question. It does talk about how a survey is going to be administered to the students at the conclusion of the observation period. Can we please get a copy of that survey so we know about what questions are going to be asked of these students?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And I'll re-ask that question again. If an ESL, major or minor, say that Maranatha wants to come in and observe you, how do they do that? Who do they contact?
They can contact me. They can contact Jenny Borst or Ashley Hyrick.
That would be great, really.
We have 3, so we are 3 at the high school. And so they are welcome to come shadow. Shadowing is also available. Highly encouraged as well. And specifically from my perspective, is beneficial for the students. I am only like,
Hey, love you guys. Have a good day.
I'm like a very, very, like I've only been teaching for about 3 years, but in my like work as a pre-service teacher, I did not get the opportunity to shout out ESL or multilingual teachers, and I would highly recommend it. So if you do have any students who would like to from Maranatha, I highly encourage it and will welcome it as well.
Great, thank you. Appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for your hard work, Daniel.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, we're going director's update.
Perfect.
Alrighty.
Good. All right, a few updates. First of all, the professional development plans for October 23rd. There's a lot of really exciting pieces planned. First, I am going to share, I believe that left in here. The first hour of the day will be spent at the high school with the full district doing some Teachnology professional development. And I know that they were going to talk about that in their Teachnology update, but from 8 to 9 will be these options. I won't share much beyond that at this point because I know that the Teachnology team is going to do that. And then I will take some time with the secondary staff to discuss the curriculum course guides. And our plan is to give our teachers a bit of time to start working on their curriculum course guides. I know that that's been a priority here at Ed Services and within the district. So I will be presenting to the secondary staff about that, and then we will be giving them some time to get started with their curriculum course guides. The high school then spends some time focusing on AVID strategies in the classroom. In the middle school, they'll be spending the afternoon focusing on a Know Your Learner plan. So really diving into students' IEPs to better understand how to best support them in the classroom. And so that will be what's happening in the middle school in the afternoon. And then at the elementary level, they will be doing in-person continued HMH into literacy training. And then they'll have a little bit of time with their grade level teams to talk about what's working and strategies to be implementing that into their classroom. And then also having a bit of time to do some implementation of the training in their classroom as well. So as always, you are welcome to join us for any and all of that. I actually am very excited about the first hour of the day, and I'm sure the Teachnology team would love to see you in one of the Teachnology sessions as well. So if you're interested in that, certainly reach out to us and we can get you signed up and ready to go.
Okay, very good.
All right, the next director update, I got 3 of them here.
Okay.
Okay, I joked that I don't actually talk the whole meeting, but maybe I do. The curriculum course guide update with the curriculum committee. I did want to point out that on the policy meeting tomorrow night, there is an updated policy on the committees to add that curriculum committee. I do think that we'll need to do a revision to AG 2210A, which is what outlines that curriculum review committee. And so I do have that on the docket and on my radar that we'll want to make sure we update that after the policy is updated. I do want to point out, because I know the concern was, is this going to slow down our process with the curriculum course guides? And I want to reiterate what Dr. Burke said during the last board meeting, which is our intent is to continue rolling those through Ed Services until we have the curriculum committee up and running. So for instance, next month, we had originally planned to have the elementary math curriculum course guides completed. Ashley is working diligently on those with the help of AI and Ask Us. So I would anticipate that those will continue to be on the November Ed Services meeting. We'll also be doing course updates at the high school in the November Ed Services meeting as well. So you can look forward to that. And that I just wanted to give a bit of a reminder that we did have a bit of a gap in our curriculum course guide process so that our teachers could use time on professional development days like we're doing on October 23rd to support finishing those curriculum course guides too. So the goal would be after that last professional development day, then we can really get rolling on all the curriculum course guides so that our teachers have time to complete that throughout the school year. Any questions about that?
None.
All right. Anyone else got it? Good. And then certainly, the last piece of the director update is an update on Avid Tutors, and I will turn that over to Ms. Grunt so she can share.
Perfect. If you guys want to I threw a flyer together. It was a little bit last minute, so I think it was we just needed to finalize which days we were going to be doing tutorials in Avid. So quick, 30-second elevator pitch for new board members to the process. So AVID stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. It is a program for students who recognize they need a little bit more support or challenge to meet whatever their goals are post high school. It's an application-based class, so they apply to get in, they interview to get a seat in the course, and then they have their spot in that elective class from the time of entry until the time they don't want it any longer. So, for example, this year was the first year at RMS that we rolled that program down to 7th grade. So in theory, these kids as 7th graders could stay in all the way through their senior year of high school, having this as an elective opportunity for them. Again, right, trying to break down barriers and get kids to meet whatever post-high school goals they have. So is that a 2-year trade program? Is that a 4-year college institution? Is that the military? Is that going right into the workforce? It doesn't matter to us what that goal is. The point is that individual determination, they have identified something for themselves that is acting as a barrier to them being able to reach that. And so sometimes that is in the areas of writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. Those are the key tenets of AVID. Sometimes that is they are first generation college goers. Sometimes that is family financial support is an issue. And so the AVID program and the AVID curriculum helps identify what those barriers are to be able to help students navigate whatever pathway they want. As part of that program, we hold students to higher academic and behavioral expectations to be able to challenge themselves more. We're not expecting perfect grades by any means, but we are expecting them to continually challenge themselves. And sometimes with that challenge, right, comes that dip in grades because they're not used to taking honors or AP level courses. A lot of our students would traditionally have just taken middle of the road classes because that feels comfortable to them. And so trying to figure out ways to challenge them. The AVID program has things called tutorials that students engage with to help support them in that higher level course taking. So when we say tutorials in the AVID program, it is truly students coming to class, having been in these higher level classes, and identifying a point of confusion that they have within that higher level class that they need more clarification on for themselves to grow as an independent learner in that classroom. So they are coming to class with a tutorial request form completed and saying, here's my point of confusion. This is the area that I know I need to strengthen in order to push myself more in this class. Our AVID teachers then sort those points of confusion by kind of grouping them in similar categories. So this might be a math group that is all kind of supporting each other with math. This might be our social studies crew, right? So they group all of the students, and that is where the request of all of you comes in, and people, right, in the community, is that those groups need facilitators. I think their AVID officially calls them tutors, but I think that can sometimes have a stigma attached to it that you have to be a knowledgeable expert to guide the actual curriculum forward, and that is not what AVID is looking for from their tutors. AVID is looking for facilitators of conversation and facilitators of discussion, because these students are being empowered with their own lines of inquiry to be able to challenge each other to find that answer more independently the next time. So asking questions about what resources exist, asking questions about how students can navigate the content that they already have access to within their resources and within themselves to be able to get to that answer for themselves the next time. Think that college level study group, right? Trying to help students figure out navigating that more independently. So our tutors are truly on the sides, helping facilitate higher levels of questioning and conversation with students to get students to find the answers independently, not the tutor's responsibility to be able to provide the answer for students or having to know, right, what honors geometry is expecting of students today, right? That isn't the expectation. And so in order to really help support students in our AVID programming, this flyer, I should have specified, this is specific to the middle school. The high school would also really, really love tutors. So you can see tutorials take place on Tuesdays and Thursdays. At RMS, we make AVID the very first block of the day with hopes that like people come in and tutor, and then if you need to go about the rest of your day, that is just fine. If you want, like on the backside, I got a text from Jason Whitaker, 9th grade AVID. It happens at the high school from 10 to 11:10. And then 10, 11, and 12th grade AVID happen from 11:40 to 1 o'clock. And that overlap happens because the high school can use those students as cross-age tutors then to be in each other's AVID classrooms to help tutor each other with those higher level classes. And so RMS, right, because the high school tutors are working to be able to support each other up there, we look for outside tutors a lot to be able to come in and support. And so when we say Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7:45 to 9:15, that is our AVID 8 class, followed by our AVID 7 class in that same chunk of time. So you'll see that's why that time spans a little bit longer. We would take you every Tuesday and Thursday, every other Tuesday and Thursday, just Tuesdays, just Thursdays, some Tuesdays, some Thursdays. We don't care how we can get you as long as like you let us know, right? We can put a spreadsheet together for you to put in your availability. So if this sounds like something you would be interested in doing and would have time to be able to help us out for even portions of that, my contact information is at the bottom, and I would happily get you kind of our spreadsheet for you to tell us your availability, because we would love to have you. Our students love seeing faces. I know Dan and his wife have acted as AVID tutors all over the course of last year, and he might be able to speak to his experience, maybe putting him on the spot a little bit, to give you some more information as a tutor himself, what that looks like and feels like.
Yeah, it was a great experience, and Kathy was an art teacher when she was teaching, and she was a facilitator for areas that were way outside art, but it worked. And the relationships we were able to build with the kids, I mean, I called her Kid Fix, because I missed that, but it was great. And the kids are very independent. And when you had the open house with the parents showing up, the kids presented, and I was just amazed that these were 8th graders and the confidence they showed speaking to adults, strange adults. So it's working, and I would encourage you to, at least go once or a couple times whenever you can make it, because I think it's a great program. So
We advertise now because students are learning the tutorial process right around this time of the year. So October is typically when we get into kind of starting up that process and helping students figure out what that is. And then looking for those beginning tutorials to start kind of mid to late November. So we'd like to pitch it to all of you to give you a few weeks to kind of decide what your schedules might look like and see if there's availability. And again, like take this flyer, we have other ones, like take the extras. This isn't specific to Ed Services or the board. Like if you have community partners, if you have retirees, if you have, retired teachers are amazing, like to come in and volunteer their time with us, we would love to have them. And the kids truly love having people in there. Like Dan is selling himself short a little bit. He went above and beyond, but the kids, like there's a lot of writing involved in AVID. They're doing a lot of research writing and a lot of processes. And Dan was like looking at papers and giving them feedback on drafts. And so they got used to like, oh, is Mr. Boulder coming in? I have an essay I want him to look at. Like it was like a very they were forming bonds with tutors. Because that was important to them. So just know it is a way to be able to make an impact for students. The other piece with AVID that you'll see from me pretty regularly is inviting you to our AVID family nights. Can I speak to that for just a second so you know what that is? So we will have another our AVID family nights will be in December and May. We have to finalize those dates. Our family night this last time for our signing ceremony was the largest one we have ever had to date. We had about 170 people in attendance, which was insane for us to like, holy cow, this is clearly a big deal for these students. But it is truly just a celebration of what's happening in Avid. So if you happen to be available on the nights, like I will email those out and you will know like, hey, please come. You won't be put on the spot. We won't ask you to present or do anything like that. It is truly like you hearing from the students themselves what is happening in their Avid program. Is we are empowering them to be good public speakers and to use leadership skills. So they are speaking to families, they are explaining their experiences. And we would love to just have you as part of those celebratory nights with families if you happen to be able. So again, that for sure will happen in December and May, but we just have to finalize the dates for that. And I will get those to you as soon as we have done that.
Any questions?
Do you track these young people? This is great. I read about this as well.
Good.
Do you track them in high school? Do you have any idea about how many are successful when they take AP classes?
So Chris Malloy is our data analyst for the district. She is phenomenal with her spreadsheets and wizardry. There's an entire spreadsheet that has tracked all Avid students over time with all of their course taking so that we are monitoring as an Avid program. Are we challenging them enough? What are we expecting of them? We, as an Avid crew at RMS, sit down with all the 9th grade course requests, like for our 8th graders, and we have one-on-one conferences with each of them to say, you are challenging yourself too much, because sometimes, right, they feel like, okay, I have to do all of the things, and it's like, we want you to do the things you're choosing well. So we have to talk about balance. We also make sure that they are appropriately challenging themselves, like, hey, you have not taken a higher level course, and we know you are capable of that. And so using that as the starting point, and then yes, we monitor all the way through high school with our high school Avid counterparts to make sure that those students are continuing to take higher and higher level classes. And again, right, the goal isn't you have to take everything. The goal is we want you better today than you were yesterday and constantly looking to improve.
Okay, thank you. Sounds good. I was wondering, AP classes are open to everyone right now, correct? What kind of a success rate there is for those who may not in the past have qualified maybe to take an AP course? And are these students making it on a pretty good percentage? Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yes.
Because you hate to see them failing a lot because they get overreached too early.
Yep, and part of our Avid program would hold them to C minuses or above. Like they are not allowed to fail in Avid, and we are doing weekly grade checks. We are doing the tutorials. We are doing lots of work to help them feel that level of success as they navigate those higher level courses.
Great, thank you.
Can I get more of these to hand out to other board members?
Yes, if you want the blimp to like drop them from the skies, I'm happy to do that for you, Dan.
I didn't know we had a blimp.
Well, I will hire one just for you, Dan, if that's something that you wish. Yes, I think it is now linked into the agenda for today. It wasn't as of a while ago because I was late in getting that to Jenny. So yes, I think she's upping the printer right now and she'll have them printed before you leave.
Thank you, thanks.
And I did not put them in the agenda because I don't generally like to add things after it's been published, but I can certainly get you guys the link to that.
Sure.
too.
All right. Well, thank you very much,
Yeah,
Leanne.
thank
And we will certainly be in contact.
Thank you.
All right. We go on technology?
Technology update, I believe, would be our next stop. Thank
All
you.
right.
Sounds good. I always want to start with gratitude, so I want to thank the members of the board for their time, commitment, and support of the work of the technology team. It's appreciated. We have a small but mighty technology team, 5 members, 3 of which are here today, and I'd like to just pause and give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, please.
I will go first. I'm Miranda Kluge. I'm one of the members of the technology team.
I'm Kyle Olabo. You see me at the board meetings. I also handle a lot of the networking stuff as computer tech.
And I'm Dave, IT supervisor, and I just watch them work. And I want to thank the members of the technology team for their work as well. As you well know, technology impacts every aspect of our organization, and you'll hear a little piece of that work today. Our presentation will really, as framed, give you some data. We like to look at data, some data that we've talked about and looked at over really the course of the last year. Some projects that we've accomplished in the last 12 months. I'll look at some things that we are really excited about for the future. And then we'll end with a reminder of our Chromebook plan and really look for the support of this group. As I mentioned, technology is part of everything we do, and it supports classroom instruction. Our Teachnology strengthens our communication. It's part of our protection of our data and our systems, and empowers both staff and students to grow and succeed. And so, one thing that we talk about as a team is that 90% of what we do is about the humans, and 10% is about the Teachnology. There's certainly a lot of devices. And so today we just want to tell our story and answer any questions you might have. And with that, I turn it over to Miranda for a look at some data.
All right, so we did a little capture of our entire year of last year from July 1st to June 30th, and we resolved about 2,567 tickets during that time frame. There might be a little wiggle room there as we have students come to the help desk at our high school level just as needed. We try to resolve those within like a day, and our average response time right now is 3.2, but we can always improve on that. We recently did a staff survey, and our numbers have gone up with the technology support that they need and the technology that they need to do well. So over the past years, it was around 3.99, and this year it was 4.2 and 4.09. So we're improving. So that's kudos to us and everybody else. And then we are upping our game with our Chromebooks. So we currently manage 5,286 Chromebooks in the entire district. That includes, also we have Chromeboxes, which are on our room devices, so our teachers can log into the room account and not have their data and Skyward and everything like that shown. Our interactive displays are at 233. Windows laptops, we are currently at 200, and Windows desktops are 150. So primarily we support the Chromebooks, and we are trying to transition our staff to Chromebooks for the ease of security and improvement for learning.
So off of that, some recent projects that we've done, yeah, okay, those transitions. We always love to like share new information and stuff with our staff. One of the ways we've done that which we usually do once a month in this room, is the ESC Lunch and Learns. It's usually about a 15-minute, here's how you do something. We've had various people like Chris Malloy, Dave's done one, I've done one, Miranda's done one. Like I still use to this day some of the keystrokes that Dave presented at Lunch and Learn. And it's a nice little like targeted PD towards like the ESC, but it's always kind of a nice little fun near lunchtime meeting with the staff down here. One of the focuses, because we didn't have many like a big project we're focusing on, like putting up displays or something, was security this year. And by doing one of the ways that we did that was rolling out multi-factor authentication to both our staff and our students. To our staff, if you don't know what multi-factor is, I know it's kind of rolling out, but everybody's used to having username and password. Well, that's just something that you know. Another factor is something that you have, and that's where some people like myself, I prefer message on my phone. Some people have a little dongle. It's just something gives it that extra layer of security that you have. And one of the difficult parts we had was rolling this out differently for staff and students, because we don't want students to always have to carry their cell phone. So I'm kind of figuring out how do you do that. One of the things that our team did do and figure out is the new IDs that the students get. There's a little QR code on that, and that's their multi-factor authentication. So I know Miranda worked really hard with network to get that onto the IDs. And you gotta think of it like students should have their like if they were 16, they should always have their driver's license, well, they should always kind of have their ID on them. So it's kind of another way of making sure that those life skills, they have their ID with them at all times. Especially since in high school, if to get into sports games, they did it anyway. So it just made sense for us to incorporate as a part of that. And then we meet with a larger group outside the technology team, which is the Future Ready team, which includes some teachers, some administration stuff, to come up with some goals. Where do we want to see ourselves in a couple years? So we had several meetings to be able to focus on putting that together and move forward with where do we want to see ourselves in the near future? What should we focus on? Just making sure I got my notes together. Yeah, so then we also had some goals that are associated with that, and they are in the agenda. And then always continuing to figure out how to support and communicate with the district as a whole. One of the ways we did that recently is, as Amanda, when she was talking about tickets, is that's our best way of being able to communicate with our team. So we had a Tickets Please campaign. It was actually a fun little thing with our team. If you've been in any of the buildings, you may see some posters that were up and about that involved members of our team with pictures. I think the last one also included Jared too, as an astronaut. So it's just a fun little, like, gives people a smile, reminds, please put tickets in. And I know, just for example, mine was a picture of me as like a pilot, because I like going to like EA AirVenture every year. So it was just like, it just says internet not flying because I'm a network guy. I'll put in a ticket. Like, just kind of makes it more fun and engaging for our staff to be able to put tickets in and just put smiles on people's faces. So I would toss it over to Dave to say where we're going.
Before we do looking ahead, do you guys have any questions for the first two? Because it's kind of a lot to throw at you already.
Do the teachers have access to the lunch and learn?
We have not passed it on to the teachers.
They
We
are,
record it, or did we?
they are recorded, but we have.
Right, but we haven't passed them out to the teachers, or haven't shared it with the teachers.
Would it be appropriate? I mean, could they learn about the technologies mostly, aimed at the admin?
I think most of them have been aimed at clerical.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's certainly any resource to help somebody who wants to learn something is certainly, it's a good idea.
Dave, what is a Glowforge, please?
It's a laser engraver. So
Okay.
it's a fully enclosed laser engraver, so they can put something like a piece of wood in it and it'll engrave something.
Okay, thank you.
All right, looking ahead. So as you already saw a little bit at the beginning, we are doing a mini technology, teachnology conference on the PE day next week. We're very excited for that. We have, how many is it? How many sessions? 15 sessions with a wide variety of different skills being taught by experts in our district, as well as a couple of outside vendors coming in to offer sessions. Rhyme, our copier company, they are sponsoring the event, so they're supplying or essentially paying for breakfast from our food service who will be supplying it on the day. So we're hoping that everybody enjoys that and comes in welcomed and ready to learn. We really want to knock it out of the park and make this an event that people will ask for every year. And we hope that people learn a lot, and the fact that they get to choose the session that they want to be in. It's like going to Brainstorm or Slate or any of those, WASB or any of those conferences. So, so we're very excited. And as Jenny said, I hope that we can see some or all of you at a session. That would be great.
I will say to this, the only complaint that I have heard from RMS staff is that they can't do all of them. Like, people are like, this is amazing. They're very, very excited for this opportunity, and
That's
So
good.
just know that is they are very much buzzing about how
Well,
excited
and,
they
and
are.
hopefully with that in mind, then, they will, choose to do different sessions and not sit with their friends and then come back and collaborate. Because we are seeing that already, like, we'll have 4 people that we know work together, all sign up for the same session at the exact same time. It's like, okay.
I also don't know, like, to that point, I mean, having attended lots of conferences, right, you know that that's best practice to like try to differentiate yourselves. And so maybe a follow-up email, hey, this is a suggestion, like I can certainly do that with RMS, but I think district-wide that could be really helpful for people who haven't attended conferences before, because there are so many really great choices.
Okay, yeah, no, we'll definitely, I've got a couple more emails scheduled to go out, so we'll just include that.
What's the date of that conference?
The 23rd, was it Thursday?
Yep, Thursday, October 23rd, to the high school.
And all the sessions will be upstairs on the 2nd floor.
Between 8 and 9.
Except for maybe Lynn Linskin's. Hers is very popular already. We might have to get her to the auditorium.
We certainly know that.
All right, so next is Ask Us. And this is a pet project of mine for sure. I mean, of the team, but I mean, this is something I'm super excited about. I always pride myself in seeing what the road looks like in 5 years and trying to be innovative and bringing the district and trying to be a leader. Maybe not bleeding edge, but definitely cutting edge in what we're doing. And this is definitely one of those projects. Jason came to us and had an idea and said, hey, I'd like to have a place where new staff can go to and get all the answers so that in case their mentor's not available, in case administration's not available, this is a place that they can go for everything WSD related. So Gus is essentially it's a notebook LM. It's essentially a notebook LM. What it is it's like a small AI bot that will only look at resources that you give it. And so imagine ChatGPT looks at everything out in the world. Gemini looks out at everything out in the world. Notebook LM and Ask Gus, and I'll just refer to as Gus at this point, or Gus, is a Gemini running. So it runs off of the Gemini engine or model, but it will only run the resources that we have. And so far, we're constantly adding, like I'm adding a lot of curriculum right now, but we have all the district policies inputted into it. We have a lot of tech stuff. We have everything I could find from FERPA.gov, so that if teachers or staff members have questions about what they can and can't share, their student records and how they are supposed to maintain those, they can ask Gus, and it will give them the law, as well as it'll give them the district policy, and it'll reference it and do all that. So we'll actually have you ask a few questions and see what you think. So we're adding all the curriculum. I added a bunch of special ed documents that were shared with me. So we're just going to constantly build this up. What I really like about it is, so we spend lots, as you guys know, we spend lots and lots of money on curriculum. We have a lot of training that comes in. We spend a lot of PD. We do everything to get everybody prepared to do as much as they can for students. And then, like any school, we have turnover. So when we hire a new teacher, they don't have the same PD that we had when we rolled out the curriculum. So we want them to have that level of information in one spot that they can ask and be able to get that help. And I'll work for administration and all staff, board members, and so on. So that's really what it's at. It'll never stop growing because there's always constant information. For instance, last week I added a bunch of new board policies that were just approved. So that's constantly going to be updating the data, right? The biggest thing is there's no bias, there's no outside information, there's no anything except what we feed it. And that's just the documents that we have. So Jenny, if you want to go to it, we'll give her a try and you can see. So this is what the average person sees. It just looks like a standard chatbot if you went to ChatGPT or Gemini or any of the other ones. So anybody have a question you want to ask it that might be board related or?
can I get Sam's English grades from when he was in high school?
Very, very. Yes, as
We'd like to know that.
That's
No.
exactly what I was thinking.
So that is probably the biggest difference here also, is remember, this is general information. This will never, ever have any student data, any employment data. It will never have a name of a person unless it's in reference to somebody you need to talk to change your W-2. But so it's not gonna have any of that sensitive information. This is all general.
And kind of going off that real quick, mentioning security as part of our projects, this AI does not train the bigger model of Gemini. All the data stays within inside WUSD, and that was one of our big key things, as well as if somebody does accidentally put student data in, it is protected, it's secured. We just wanted to make sure that if it does happen on accident, that we are secured if it does.
So I don't know if you want to ask it, what's a hot topic? What related to maybe one of the new board policies I was just, what do you think?
Tell me details about the new student dress code added in the last month.
Okay. And maybe compare that to the controversial policy that you guys just approved?
We'll start here.
So, and it's a thinking model, so of course, it's going through everything that we have fed into it, so we have 35 or 37 sources in there, quite a bit of data already in it, so it does take a little bit to get a response because it's sifting through everything. We will add the handbooks, so as you can see, it's going to give you the board policy. As people learn to use it and you ask questions, it's going to learn how you like your responses, and it's going to, so it'll actually mold itself to be able to interact with you as an individual based on how you like to dress. So that's what I was going to say. It can, so because it is running the latest version of the Gemini model, it's like a super intelligent, let's just say we hired somebody fresh out of college, super intelligent, knows how to do all the basic stuff, but doesn't have any experience. Our resources are the experience. So it can write emails, it can give you, all the advice based on the model, but it'll only use the experience of the resources that we have. So yeah, so it'll help you write an email saying, I need to explain to Johnny's parents on why it isn't appropriate to have, this on there, and it'll help the staff member write the email or write the letter or anything along that lines.
Student don't have that.
Well, I took the wrong policy, didn't I, about public performances of students. Does anybody know what the student code policy number is off the
They
top of their head?
referenced it in your last.
But it was-
last
oh,
response.
582.
550 classroom code of conduct, no, I'm sure it's in there.
I'll go find it.
You could ask it too, you'd be like, what specific policy is the dress code policy? Curriculum wise, so for instance, we have all of the Bridges math curriculum in there, English and Spanish. All the teacher work guides, the teacher workbook, all that, so a teacher can ask.
11.
So
Did
the
you see?
5, 5, 11.
So the teacher can ask, give me examples of how I would teach this lesson for Unit 2, Lesson 5 for 5th graders. And it'll come back and it'll know what is being taught, and it'll give you examples of what you can use, or like voice and choice or anything along that lines. And then,
So you might ask that as a teacher, give me 3 good objectives for this particular topic.
Yes.
yeah, so let's try that.
For some reason, it's not working for me today.
What's on?
I did the dress code policy piece.
We put 511, which was the most recent.
Yeah, it's.
And we've done it before with 55.
Right, we have.
So I don't
So-
know why it's not working today.
Okay, I'll
Alrighty,
double check.
we'll do Bridges Math, 4th grade.
Yeah, so give me some objectives, you said, and then just pick a lesson, a unit, a lesson, and a grade level for Bridges. Or even ask it to do a lesson plan.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
People are gonna
do a lesson plan for blah, 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 blah.
And it might
So experienced teachers could share lesson plans with a new teacher, and They'd have it right there at their fingertips.
So this is
Well, that's
plugged
great.
into other resources to make AI come up with something, right?
Right, so this is, I mean, all of our resources only. So it'll only, so if it doesn't have something like it, for some reason, I'll have to double check to make sure that policy is in there. I know we've used it, so it should be in there.
We've asked this.
But
question.
it's, as you can see, when it doesn't find what it wants, it'll let you know, I can't find that, you know.
Or it might tell you, like, the Iris Center is a really good resource, okay, by Vanderbilt University.
Only if
Teachers.
I would have to put that input in.
You have to put that in. Okay.
I would have to put that in as a source. So for instance, I do have a couple of YouTube videos on how to use Google Workspace, so like Docs and Gmail and stuff like that. I do have those in there so that it can reference, that YouTube video, that information off that site.
So would this have the latest figures on the enrollment of the third Friday of September? Would it have that?
Only if we put it in there. I don't have that in there, but we certainly could put that data in there because it is generic school data.
There's a question down here.
Sorry.
Great.
What, is this going to be a parent-facing, tool as well? Student and parent-facing tool?
Students, most likely not. Students, we have in the back of our minds, once this is where we feel like we're happy, we were looking at, building Gus Junior, as more of a student.
I like that.
Yeah, so that it's, cause we wanna have some guardrails on for students, that, not giving them full access to like Gemini and so on. And there's gonna be some stuff in here that really doesn't need to be student facing. So we were looking at building a Gus Junior. Parents, we haven't really discussed it, but it's certainly a discussion.
Like, for instance, if a constituent wanted to go to our website and say, well, help me understand our financial budgeting situation, and they could maybe navigate.
I think we'd have to build a new one, specifically. The biggest problem we have with us having this outside facing is we would be breaking a lot of our copyright contracts with allowing the public to have access to Bridges or any of our curriculum. Because we're putting this in to have access to that curriculum for the staff. So anything that we put in, so we're putting in all of our materials, which a lot of it is copyright. I mean, it is our copyright because we own it. But as soon as we put it outward facing, well, now we're violating that contract because anybody can grab that information and start teaching with it or using it, and so we can't do that. So we could build one specifically for parent facing though.
Yeah, okay, so this would be accessible via like Google Drive for the board and staff.
It's actually, it'll be just a link that they can bookmark based in Notebook LM. So similar to Google Drive, but it's a Notebook LM. And our plan was to release it over the next few days, beginning of the week, so that staff have access to it for the PD training, because I have a session on it as well. So we'll give access to everybody here shortly. We wanted to give you guys a look and see if you had any questions or anything before we opened it up to everybody. There's one other part that I would love to show you guys, that it's just you're seeing the chatbot. One thing that I'm really excited about, Jenny, I'm gonna, in a second here, I'm gonna ask you to refresh your page. Refresh
Giving me access?
Yeah, I'm giving you more access, so just refresh it.
Technical weight as well.
Yeah. So this is what it looks like on the back end. So this is what I see, what the team sees. So you can see all the sources on the side. If you scroll down on the left side, you'll see what we have in there so far. It's like you see Alex Math, all the Bridges. Nice thing about, like, again, for Bridges or any of the curriculum, because it's using the AI model with Gemini, which is Google, and Google's really good when it comes to translating, we can have it build a lesson plan in Spanish, or so our ESL students can get those resources. And it's not, and what I really love about this is it's not a word-to-word translation, I gotta admit that that really sucks. It's not great. So when it's just, hey, this is exactly how it is in English, we're just gonna translate the English words to Spanish words, and it makes no sense because it's not written in a way that they would read it. This will rewrite it in a way that it's supposed to be, so that it makes sense. Okay, so it's fully translated document and not just word for word. And we've done it with letters to parents even using it, so, which is really nice. So you can see, and we're gonna continue to build that up. But one thing that I wanted to show you is, let's see if this works. You might have to give access to your microphone. Just a heads up in the top right, or on the top corner.
Craig, you want to ask that question now?
Yeah, I mean, so the biggest hang up that I think I heard that this is for us not to have this as a parent facing or public facing, tool is because of potentially copyright. Yeah, is that something we can explore with legal? Cause I mean, that seems like that's kind of a very strong gray area. Because certainly members of the public can open records request. Sure. We really have focused on the staff component of this. Sure. Said that we've talked about a student piece and that would be a separate, it wouldn't even be connected to this other than by name. And we can look at a third one for our parents, but right now we're just. Well, no, I mean, because parents may have an interest in being able to explore things in the curriculum.
Right,
Ask us.
right, but in my opinion, so parents can request a curriculum, which we know that is directly where it's going, and it's how it's being used. If we open it to the public so that any parent can, unless we have a way for the parents to log in specifically to it, if it's open to the public, that means our copyright materials are gonna be open to the public, and we just can't do that by contract, like.
So you're suggesting that perhaps maybe, the best way to provide login credentials to members of the public when they ask potentially? I think there are two pieces. One is that we'd have to consult legal, attorney. And the second piece is really think about what is the content in that, if it is different, right? And how do we navigate that? Right, so we can explore it. Okay, I mean, I just really want to understand, why, I mean, if we're gonna allow it to be readily accessible for, individuals to research those types of things, if the app is the copyright, then we have to try to navigate around that somehow. Yeah, I would say that's nothing that we can't overcome. It's just that this juncture, we are really focused on staff. Okay. Like, the amount of time that's gone into this is really a lot, and so we want to make sure that we're ready for staff. We have a plan where, as Dave mentioned, we have a session next week that folks can sign up for to learn more about it. We've done a similar demonstration with the admin team last week, and so we're kind of organically letting them come out, but we want to just make sure this is up and ready and useful before we start expanding the population. But for sure.
So I think really what I'm hearing with what Craig's getting at is it would be a good idea for us to consult with legal, reach out to them and ask them about some of the ins and outs of providing this language model, not a separate version, but the same version that the teachers use, to parents or constituents, and what those what the potential pitfalls of that would be. Not something for you guys to immediately start building a whole nother language model. I think that would be kind of cumbersome for you, but just finding out from legal kind of where we would stand on that stuff.
Absolutely. I wrote it down as a to-do. It's just, again, I want to reiterate, the amount of time that has gone into this prepared for staff is not a short amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
We want to be really ready for staff, and then second, to explore and be prepared for beyond that. So we want to just do well. I mean, I think it's great. I think that effort and the time that you're putting into something like this is going to be exponential in its return as far as productivity is concerned. So
I will say that we have, because of the work we put in and because a little bit we've shared with other schools in conferences and meetings that we've had, we've been asked to present at a conference for it. We have other districts that are following suit because of what we're doing here, which feels pretty good, right? I mean, we're doing something that's outstanding and this is meant to be that place where, so if I'm a new teacher and I can't get a hold of my mentor, I can get a question answered right away. I can't get a hold of admin because they're busy. I can get a question right away, get guidance. And that's huge.
Well, a couple things. First of all, I think it's brilliant and an incredible use of AI.
Yes.
And in a positive way. Was there a district somewhere in the country where you saw this done?
No.
And modeled it so that we are kind of the impetus and the.
We are the first school district I know of that is doing this, to this level.
So who then, is your team then responsible for all the updates that have to
Yes.
happen?
I am, like, essentially everything has to come through me. But I will say that we are putting together we need to, for curriculum, for instance, that has to go through checks and balances with the administrative team. Like I need to be told, yes, this is clear to be added because we don't want anything that doesn't have the proper information put into the resource, because then we're doing no better than the generic public one where you could get hallucinations and wrong information, right? So this has to be gone through the administrative team before I can put it on.
And somewhere in there is built in a process for the people who say, come up with information that is mind-boggling because it doesn't seem to be what they're looking for or it's wrong information. A way to report that to the team,
Oh,
to
sure.
the ticket.
Yeah, through the ticket system. If they see something that seems incorrect, absolutely, they can submit a ticket and then we'll investigate and find out what's going on.
That's been part of our message, even with the admin team, is that just like if you use ChatGPT, we are promoting, you have to review it, right? You have to review it and probably revise the final product before saying it's done. And that'll be a message that we continue to push out. Just back to your question, like this really started as a tech team, just talking about how do we better support really new folks because we see the turnover of our staff. And we initially contacted, I forget the name of the company.
What, Salesforce was the first company we talked to.
You might have seen some commercials with like Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. And I think their quote came back to us like at $125,000. And so Dave was ready to sign on line and I said, absolutely not. We have to be able to do this. And so, you know, it was a challenge, right? So like, and Dave mentioned earlier, like, this is a passion project, so I appreciate the work and the passion. But this, I mean, I don't know the districts that do this right yet, but.
It's great forward thinking.
I will say that what we're doing here is driving a new initiative with Wise-Local. So now because of what we're doing, they brought myself in and I think one of you two or both of you, or it's definitely Chris and myself, have been going to all the board meetings for Wise-Local, as well as we started an AI task force with Wise-Local. So they're paying developers to now do this with Wise Dash, so that Wise Dash, every school district, starting with us first, because we're driving it, we'll be able to do something similar with our data and ask those questions instead of looking at 5 spreadsheets to try to get the answer. Wise-Local will eventually be able to, our staff, our administrators, our teachers will be able to go ask it a question, hey, can you find me and my students that have behavior issues or have so many referrals with attendance, blah, 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 score on assessment at this level, and it'll sift through all those different pieces and bring back the names or the student numbers from our data. Again, in its closed own thing. So this is spawning off a whole nother world of abilities that we're gonna have from people copying us, which is pretty cool, I think.
Well, in that regard, I hope that someone is keeping track of all the things that you're doing so that at the appropriate time and the appropriate place and way that we honor that and share that. I know this has got a beta period, a beta testing period. I mean, you've got to let it run its course here for a while, but kudos to the entire team.
So years ago in the financial services industry, when I first rolled, I worked on a help desk. And what was really interesting is that this organization was one of a kind in the sense that they had this large glossary, basically this big e-manual, electronic manual, by which to follow policies and procedures so that when you handed out information to your customers, that it was accurate information. Boy, I wish something like this tool would have been available back then. I think it will be really useful for that purpose alone, so that staff is able to direct parents directly to the most accurate information as well.
Right, so, yeah, I mean, our vision is that, new staff onboarding might be completely different in the future because we can give them resources to go and search on their own, and we can focus on, other things instead of trying to inundate them with 5 days of holy crap, ton of information, and how much are they actually retaining where they know that they can go get that information. So teaching them to find the information instead of feeding them all the information might be a lot better in the future. But I don't want to take all your time, but I want to show you one last thing that's either going to scare the crap out of you or blow your mind away on what this can really do. So if you scroll down and we hit play, so it'll take all of our resources. I'll move it further. Yep. And keep scrolling. Keep scrolling down, because I want to go keep scrolling. Yeah. Okay. So what it does, you can keep going. So, all right. So it builds a podcast based on all the information that we have, which is really cool. So it's two people essentially interacting. So now we have that interactive button right there. So now it's going to ask us. So now we can interact with it. It was weird. I wonder if I should almost go and take over, but no, it's just like your screen's too big. Yeah, like it's not showing everything on it.
It's because I can't see anything, and so I have a larger font. Thanks for pointing that out.
So it tells me your accessibility functions and asks Gus
I
to be
apologize.
updated.
You need my help, Jenny?
I didn't bring my glasses.
I got an idea.
Where do I zoom? There you go.
All right, so hit play. There we go. Thank you, Tyler.
See, I knew there were people being here today.
All right, so it's gonna start playing the podcast. Okay, so now we're gonna hit the join button. Yes, can I find out, can teachers share student data with somebody outside the district who is not a teacher and is not normally privy to the data? What if the person you're sharing it with is a student and they're 18? Then who makes the decision? All right, I want to shift gears. Can we talk about the dress code that the district policy is? Can you explain that a little bit? Policy. So again, this is only as good as the information we give it. For some reason, it's not finding the district policy. I don't know if when I uploaded it, we copied one in the same spot, so I'll go back and check. But again, it's only as good as the information. But eventually, we're gonna give, staff will be able to just ask it and interact with it. And have a conversation and get there. You're embarrassing me, guys.
Shiny moment.
Joanne?
So I have a question related to how this is used in the curriculum area.
Sure.
Pretty powerful.
Yes.
Jenny, I'm in particular interested in what you're thinking here on how this is not incorrectly or inappropriately used to replace natural pedagogical rigor on the part of our teachers, them putting the skin in the game to.
Yeah.
You're not gonna tell me that's a fantastic question.
Very timely.
Very timely.
Let's unpack that. I know, I think it's a great question. It's something that Dave and I have talked a lot about. Like, when we initially talked about it over the summer, we met and he was showing me it all, and then like, we're like walking down the hall and I was like, wait a minute, we gotta create these curriculum course guides. Like, how might this help us with that? And literally, I think he was like halfway out the door when I thought about it. And I think that's a really nice like entry point and first step. And I know that he's worked with some of the CTE department where they've uploaded their documents and asked it to write the curriculum course guide, and it's given us a really great first draft. And I think that that's like the emphasis on the fact that it's like a first draft. The other piece that I talked to Dave about is like my concern about when we're implementing our curriculum, we're implementing it with integrity, fidelity, whatever word that you want to use. And so I was like really careful about saying like, I don't want like a ton of outside resources that haven't been vetted, that aren't like our district approved curriculum. And I think what's nice about this one is like, it is our Bridges map uploaded in there. It's not, I'll pick on teacher pay teacher, which can lead to issues of not being at the right level of challenge, or can have things in there that wouldn't necessarily be a district approved piece of material. And I think the other piece is that we always have to emphasize whenever using AI, just like I think actually it's a perfect example today, where we're using our brain to be like, that's not exactly right. There's something not right here. And I think always encouraging our teachers to be using that critical thinking piece with it as well. I do appreciate the question about like parent access, but I also think that some of the items that we're doing now through the curriculum committee and the curriculum course guides will sort of open up to parents the piece of curriculum that we're working with and working on. But I think it's a great question. I would far prefer that our teachers are asking us about an activity for fourth grade fractions than just kind of going out to ChatGPT or somewhere else where those materials aren't necessarily vetted and approved through the district.
We've even gone so far as having discussions about voice and choice, like even, because they can ask give me 5 voice and choice options for students to show what they've learned, on a unit. And even that might even get them a little bit farther outside the box than what we would like, because we want them to show specifically in certain ways. And the teachers pay teachers is actually a good point back to the copyright thing. So when I first searched Bridges, just to show this as an example, because I didn't have access to it yet, I had it search the web, because it can do that. It can go out and search resources. And Teachers Pay Teachers was one of the biggest resources that it came back from for information to be able to how to teach with Bridges. And again, circling back to the copyright, that's all copyrighted material that Illinois schools pay for. Like whether it's teacher created it on behalf of the school and now we're selling it on Teachers Pay Teachers, or they're actually selling the curriculum, which Bridges curriculum out on Teachers Pay Teachers was paid for by a school. Like there's no ifs, ands about it. Those companies are gonna start using AI to find where their curriculum is being violated by copyright. And so we definitely wanna protect ourselves, going back to the legal part of it. So we don't wanna be using, teachers pay teachers in any way, because we're helping to violate copyright in almost every case.
Yeah, I guess, it's great if we're using it for curriculum guides. However, it's important to connect the dots. I mean, if we're using it just to formulate a curriculum guide and then we check the box, but yet that's not actually what's ending up in the classroom. Though there's that disconnect that hopefully we can avoid long term,
Absolutely. And like I said, like first, I consider it like first draft, like
Right.
we need to be combing through that and ensuring that it's accurately reflecting. Totally agree with you. Yeah.
David, I like this, it's a great resource, but I think what Jillian was getting at partly, at least I would get at, is taking away, hopefully this does not take away from the teachers their own connection with the content and with the students in the class. Let me give you an example. Several years ago, when I was a serving student teacher, I won't tell you where, I asked our student teacher, I always ask is, what was your objective for today, and did you accomplish that? She couldn't tell me what the objective was. So I looked at the teacher and said, what was the objective? She couldn't tell me what the objective was. And part of the reason for that was the textbooks that now are out there, as you know, have the lesson plans in there for you. And they have objectives, they have the whole 9 yards in there. So a teacher doesn't actually have to be really that engaged in thinking through that herself, because it's right there for her or for him. And so you see a little disconnect with taking ownership, of the curriculum, of the content, and having someone else do it for you, type of a thing. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
And I'm smiling and I'm going to point at Avid, because one of the pieces of the Avid is working on like, what is the essential question for the day, and like being really intentional about that for both the teacher and for the students. And I know even some of the work that Jason Whitaker is doing at the high school this year involves like checking with kids to see if they can answer essentially exactly what you're asking right now. Like what were we accomplishing today, or what was the point of today? And I think that's a key piece of it as well. And I appreciate your point of
It takes
the art of teaching.
The art of teaching.
Yes.
Yeah. Takes that out of it.
Well, what I will say is like our teachers are really excited about this concept, right? Because we have provided a curriculum in most cases, right? Here's the curriculum. But the question then comes when students don't respond to that curriculum, like here is, we got this test result and these couple of students did not have their needs met. They could use something like Ask Gus to say, put me together the review plan or reteaching opportunity for these students, and know that it's hitting the same standards, hitting the same concepts that the curriculum had intended for it, but like not going out to teachers, pay teachers, where the rigor and that expectation level isn't there to be able to help with the reteaching of that.
And show the standards and data points from STAR data that may pertain to that particular skill. Take the next step.
Well, because that would involve uploading student data and those pieces, right? Like, or when you say, because
Uploading the standards. I mean, that's the biggest thing, just uploading the standards, because the standards are the standards, right? We don't have to tie it to student data specifically, but we can. But then with the WISE-Local now piece that they're starting to build, once they finish that, now you'll be able to take that and go over to WISE-Local and say, here, I would like to have you actually tie it to our data, which would be really, really nice.
Yes.
In a secure way, because they already have it, the security based on whether you're an administrator, whether you're a teacher, whether you have access to this building or that building. So that's already, the groundwork's already done for them. So we'll be able to work hand in hand with that very well, I think. Yeah.
If I may just follow up on what, because Dave is talking the same language I am, and it's not surprising, but when you launch this on, with your teachers on the next Thursday, would seem to be, it would be wise to build in some, I don't know, you wanna call them rails or safeguards or something, but some direction that says, this is not to supplant you. And and I'm gonna use the word rigor, because I think teaching needs to be somewhat rigorous. I realize there's a lot that's expected of our teachers today that in the past was never expected of them. But, so they have a lot on their plate, I get that, and this can be a very useful tool to help cut down on some of the things that used to take eons to do, and we can control that better. But I think we have to help them deal with, and the only word that comes to mind is ethics of this. So
I agree.
just-
And I think that leads to, I mean, we did a how, what, why, as we do with everything. And I think that goes to the first line in our what. And it says, Ask Us is a new digital assistant developed by our district technology team, leveraging Google tools to help our staff with research, writing, and one-stop shop for district-based information. I think the key there is digital assistant. I mean, that is, it's meant to help them, not replace them, right?
Dave, this is your IP or your intellectual property, correct?
Well, it's the schools because I work for the school and developed it for the school.
Okay, so the school, so I think before it gets rolled out any farther, this is just a thought here, but
Yeah.
you need to protect it. And I have like access to the person that can protect it on the blockchain, all the specific ideas with a digital fingerprint that's unique to the district. And so that whole concept and stuff, it's literally done within a half hour, not for $125,000.
Yeah.
Literally for under $100.
Yeah.
But it is a whole brand new concept that stands up in court then, so that no one misuses it, and that you do get the credit here in the district that's rightfully yours, because it is your IP here.
Okay. We can certainly have a conversation about it.
I would love to.
Okay, awesome. I do have two other points to finish up on my part. I know Gus was the majority, but I just wanted to get that, and then Jason, I'll hand it over to him to finish up for the future. We are currently working with the Future Ready team, or the Teachnology team that is expanded to teachers and administrators throughout the district that we've been working on the Future Ready plan. We do have an AI guidance document or policy that we're working on so that we can get it to ed services in the future on, the how, what, why again of using AI in the district. And then we're going to be starting, as we make it through the beginning of the school year, we try to, we make sure everything's working and everything's rolling, and then we start thinking about next year, what are we going to do for next year? And so in the next coming months, we'll start looking at what our summer 2026 looks like, what we have to do beyond, just the natural Chromebook rotation and so on. So we'll be looking at working on that. So
Thank you.
thank you.
As Dave mentioned, we're always looking ahead, and so the last piece on that document is just looking for your support. In the last several years, we've talked about our Chromebook rotation here at Ed Services, and then the fiscal piece, we bring the fiscal. And so we'd like to follow that model as well. Just a few reminders, and won't read things to you, but we have a rotation for how we use our Chromebooks. We give new Chromebooks to students at the kindergarten level, the 5th grade level, and then at the freshman level, 9th grade level. And those Chromebooks stay with those students until the next rotation. So most of our Chromebooks are in student hands for 4 years. And then the 5th year Chromebooks are used as loaners. We have loaners in most classrooms and in our libraries. And then the 6th or 7th year, we start seeing those Chromebooks utilized for parts. And so this brief why, what, how just talks about that rotation. And we know that we're in a difficult spot financially, but we've worked with Sarah Kelly to make sure that this is part of our budget that will bring this to fiscal with your support.
Any concerns about that? Okay, thank you. I just want to make a comment. This is cutting edge, and almost every Ed Services meeting, we see that our district is exemplary and other schools want to follow what we're doing. And I think this should go to Melissa, you know, to help bring people in. So, thank you. Good.
All right, I think the next topic up, let me find the right tab here. Okay, the next topic up is the eCampus and Endeavor update.
Thank you very much. We always start with gratitude again. So again, I want to thank you for your support of our two charter schools, eCampus and Endeavor. And the work that I will be sharing today is really a reflection of work that was a collaborative effort between the leaders of eCampus and Endeavor. Just given the timing of the morning, I just asked them to stay in the building working with students. So this is definitely not Jason Bowles' work. It is a collaborative effort submitted of May. And so part of the contract renewal process for eCampus, we talked about developing a dashboard of data. And you'll see, if you've had a chance to look at it, the template of our dashboard is not populated with much data yet, because I wanted to stop before we started populating and get your feedback around this dashboard that we're put together. So today is really a time for me to walk through kind of what we're thinking with this dashboard, and then get your feedback. And then the next time we talk about eCampus and Endeavor, if this is the route we take, all the data sets would be populated. So it's really a pulse check here on the leadership's vision for this. I think it's also important to note that you'll see in the dashboard for both eCampus and Endeavor, there are really three dimensions that we're really focused on: engagement, academics, and then life readiness, and how each of those unique learning communities has defined that, and I'll walk us through that. And then those dimensions serve as the foundation for the data, the dashboard. What I'm excited about is that the dashboard really encapsulates what is important to both of our charter schools. And you'll see that they're really similar, but they're different. And because both of those schools are very similar, but different. And I'll talk more about that. Again, I want to reiterate, like, your input and your feedback on this dashboard is valued and valuable. And whatever feedback I leave here today will be represented when we bring it back. I think we're scheduled in January, and we'll have that student data there. I also shared two documents, just an overview. I think part of my goal today, and every time we talk about eCampus and Endeavor, is education. So I want to make sure everyone just knows and continues to learn about what we mean when we talk about Endeavor and eCampus. So there's some one-sheeters there. So I'll start with those one-sheeters, and then I'll get into the dashboard. And so again, there's some content there. The first one, Jenny, thank you, is eCampus. I think the most important parts there are really the first two segments of that one-sheeter: core features and our values. Core features of eCampus, we know, is a K-12 completely, mostly, I should say, virtual school. Really promotes personalized learning. And we have options for students, whether it's competency-based, whether it's flexible work schedules and autonomy. Really focusing on some transferable skills that we know are important beyond K-12 experience. And you'll see some of those same words in the values, right? Autonomy, connection, competence, innovation, and perseverance. And so those are some of the things that when I think about eCampus and the team that works hard with students every day at eCampus, that really stand out for me. If we turn the page to the Endeavor, very similar, different formats. Certainly each learning community has developed this and highlighted the things that they want to promote with support from Melissa. On the right-hand side there, Endeavor, we value student agency, holistic learning, community innovation. And then there's some facts about, on the left there, about what Endeavor is. And next time we come to you in January, members of Endeavor and campus will be here to not only continue the education, but also show some data. Great. If you could pull up the dashboard, please, Jane. And so again, as we started thinking about it, we as the leadership of Endeavor and eCampus thinking about what a dashboard would look like in capturing and bringing forward data. We really started with what are those value systems, or what are the things that the focus of those schools are. And so those one-sheeters really were the foundation for what became these dashboards. And so the first thing you'll see here on page 1 for Endeavor, again, there are 3 on-track descriptors. Engagement, again, I will not read these to you, academics, and life readiness. So those are the 3 kind of dimensions that we've talked about. And then there are 2 data sets connected to each of those 3. So if you look at engagement, there really is a data set connected to attendance. There's a data set connected to student agency, which is really tied to the weekly advisor check-ins. If you look at academics, well, there's really 2 again. Credit completion, which is completing in each trimester. Each of these data sets will be by trimester. Completion in the core areas of math, science, English, and social studies. And then the second one is individual goals, really goals that students craft around their measures and academic progress. And then the last kind of pillar is life readiness. And for Endeavor, there are 21st century skills that is a course that students take at Endeavor. And then college, career, community kind of readiness. And there's a list of ways that students can achieve that marker. On page 2, I'll get us through Endeavor and then I'll pause here. On page 2, you'll see is the scale. And so if you could scroll the other way, Jen, please. Top of page 2, please. Yep, right there, thank you. The scale is really the same for both Endeavor and eCampus. What you'll see is those pillars. So engagement is attendance, weekly check-ins. Academics is core area credit, progress on pacing guide, and then life readiness. And so we really try to align it with some of the language that you see in our state report card. And so the scale is really approaching expectations, meeting expectations, and exceeding. And so each of those just highlights how or the criteria for each of those markers. I think it's important that I mention it, but I want to reiterate that each of these data sets is by trimester. And so again, when we come to you in January, this data would be reflective of a first try. So on the bottom of page 2, there's one data set there. And if we're on track, this would all be populated next. But you'll see attendance. So for Endeavor right now, there are 0 students that are approaching. And if you look at attendance, approaching would be 4+ absences. And at the time that we put this together, this data together, there were 0 students in that category. We had 1 student at Endeavor that was meeting, and if you look at the chart, that means 1 to 3 absences at the time of this. And then at the time that we captured this data, there were 42 or 97.7% students that had 0 absences at Endeavor. And so again, if we're on track here, this whole chart of data would be populated. If we look at page 3, again, that chart would be populated for trimester 1 data. And then the last part is just, we want to always capture data, but use data to inform next steps. And so you'll see a few things there for next steps, given the data. And then we want to keep the board informed about some future happenings, and that's some things that are going on right now for Endeavor. eCampus is very similar, but before we get there, I'll just pause for any questions about this data dashboard for Endeavor or anything at this juncture.
Okay, committee members, anything you want to ask? Okay, Craig.
So can you help me understand a little bit more about, so there's 6 different data points that are getting merged into 3 different, areas? Am I,
No, thank you for the question. So if we look at engagement, right?
right?
Engagement on page 1 is defined there for us.
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
Right.
I see it now. Sorry, I just was reading the chart wrong.
Okay.
Linda,
So, the life readiness volunteering category,
Mhm.
so can we as a board or different people make suggestions for the volunteering or?
Yeah,
or
if
where
you
does
have
that
ideas.
Where does that come from?
I think what has happened in Denver, any campus, is that the staff has some ideas, but its students also can bring some ideas, so if you have some opportunities. I think we also have worked with the chamber for different volunteering opportunities, but if you know of some, certainly we'd be happy to take.
So would the best way to do that be to email you then?
Yeah.
Email you with our suggestions? Okay.
That's great. I'm gonna go on to eCampus then. Again, very similar, right? A few different markers, but the formatting of the dashboard is the same. And so again, you'll see three core areas: engagement, academics, and life readiness. Attendance, student agency is again those weekly check-ins. Academics, we have credit completion. Again, this is by trimester all the time. Expected academic credit earned in the current term, that would be a trimester. And then number 2 under academics, every eCampus student writes an academic goal for the trimester. We would be reporting the progress on those. Life readiness is a little different in eCampus. We have college and career, and you'll see some of those things that would fall under that category. And then community engagement is just a separate entity for eCampus. And so we'd be bringing data about students that were engaged in one or more of these, right? Service learning, student-led conferences, so on and so forth. Just a little bit of a different view at eCampus. On page 5, again, is the scale. The scale is the same, right? It is approaching expectations, meeting expectations, and exceeding. The definition or the criteria of how those metrics are framed for each of those areas is listed at the top of page 5. And then again, once you see us next talking about these charts would be populated with actual data from Tri-1. But right now, again, we looked at attendance, and when we captured this data, we had 3 students at eCampus that was in the approaching category, 0 meeting, but 134 exceeding. And again, I just want to keep reiterating, we'll have this data all populated by the time you see us next on this topic. And then at the bottom of page 6, again, following the same format, just how will we use this data, or what our next steps are, and then some future happenings. I want to keep you informed, and if you ever want to be a part of these, we'd be happy to have them. Any feedback about the dashboard would be appreciated. And then again, I think we're scheduled in January, we bring the data.
okay, great.
Couple of thoughts. The first data point of, approaching specifically attendance. If they approach, I mean, let's just say you have a student that doesn't show up for anything. They're falling under the approaching heading. To me, that doesn't quite capture what's actually going on. I mean, that might indicate that there's a failure of any expectation, and I really feel like we're missing the entire picture if we have our metrics set so skewed one particular way. So that's my concern about that. The other one is under academics, number 2. Why doesn't eCampus's number 2 reflect more something similar to that of endeavors. Specifically towards measured academic progress towards graduation.
Yeah, that's a great question. The first question, I just wanted to thank you for the feedback. The approaching, meeting, and exceeding does align with our state report card, and hence that's what the conversation. And we know that, you know, the criteria is certainly pretty large there. We can segregate data if that's helpful. So that was the thought process behind it. The second piece is, I think you're asking about academics at Endeavor versus academics at eCampus, is that right? Mm-hmm. Yep, and so credit completion is pretty much the same, very similar. And then it is similar but different, right? If you look at number 2, Endeavor, it talks about tracks that credit earned, and it is connected to goals. The difference here is it's not credit earned, it is meeting a personalized goal. If you have thoughts about how to better align that or change that.
Well, I think that the district's goal is that every child works towards graduation. And not just to attend the class, I mean, because that could be really, I mean, there could be such a gamut in between, like, focusing on driving academic success versus specific student desire for their particular goal of, oh, I just want to complete this course. Well, it's, you know, unfortunately, that's not lofty enough of a goal. I'm not assuming that eCampus isn't setting a lofty enough goal, but I do feel that the district goal should be reflected in that particular objective.
I guess
something that's a little bit more specific to, you know, I don't know, overall achievement.
Yeah, thank you. I guess what I would say also is that the credit completion certainly would get a student closer to graduation marker, and that's really tracking that progress towards. And then when we talked about goals, it really should have done a better job of this, but it's really a self-selected goal based on a student's personalized learning plan. And it's also as part of a larger context around college, career, and community engagement or academics. So students writing their goals specific to one of those markers. And there's research showing the effect size of self-selected goals by students is pretty impactful on learning. And so that's where it came from. If you have a specific way to adjust number 2 for eCampus.
Well, I guess I'm just kind of confused as to why it's not similar to Endeavor's goal.
I think it's very similar. You know, number 2 for Endeavor talks about credits earned and a goal. This one is just a goal, so we can connect.
Yeah, it doesn't even talk about credits earned.
Sure. Thank you.
Julian.
Well, I just need a point of clarification here from Jason. Was Endeavor and eCampus having separate board? So, no, I think it's the same board for both of them, right?
Yes.
Who is legally responsible for setting the information that we're talking about here today? Us as the WUSD Board of Education, or the board that runs those 2 charter schools?
It's really collaboration, right? It's ultimately driven by the contract that this board signed. The Board of Governance oversees that, and I think you're part of the Board of Governance as a liaison. It'll be a collaboration with them. They've really been a part of this as well.
Okay, so they've been involved with all of the, thank you.
Anybody? What I liked hearing this morning is that we have opportunities for students to be student-driven through this and through Avid. So Yeah, not every student is created the same and motivated the same way, so this gives them another opportunity. Great.
Yeah, I don't mean to, I don't mean for my comments to come across, as a strong critique. I think that, I think that this is great, that we have a good tool, that breaks down these particular areas and is being utilized to evaluate things. I'm just hoping that, for instance, if there could be some better clarity, maybe a better breakdown for kids that, for children that are falling less than that 70% completed category. Because I think that there's a lot that gets lost there in that one category of broken expectations.
And we know that this, thank you, right? We also know that this will never be set in stone, right? I wanted to bring this to you today to get some feedback. Next time we'll, excuse me, have some data. And if we need to pivot or change it, we can do that as well.
Okay.
It's definitely, you know, a challenge accepted by the team on how to move the data forward. And the team is accepting, right? And it will drive their work. So I think that's all good things.
The data may show you to have another category.
Right. It's a starting point.
So Jason, there's really no action item today.
No, I think
Okay.
the feedback is appreciated. And then again, I think we're in January. We'll bring the actual data.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Next topic. I just want us to review the human growth and development proposal. I did bring this back in September, and I just wanted to make sure that there was no additional feedback. I think at the time, there was not a lot of feedback. This would need to move to resolution at the board meeting if the Ed Services Committee is comfortable bringing that forth with resolution. As you remember, this just outlines the meeting dates and topics, the process that we'll use to select members of that team. And just as a reminder, any of those meetings would be open to the public and be posted as a board meeting or a committee of the board. And, but they're stated in law, population of the committee that we have to follow as well. So if anyone has any feedback for me, I'm happy to take it. Otherwise, I'll bring this as a resolution in October.
Julian.
So I'm on page 4.
Yeah.
Jenny, okay? And this is what would go out, is like an announcement about people. I would recommend, under committee membership, in accordance with board policy 2414, I would strongly recommend that we include there, and in compliance with state law, put the statute reference in there, because this is not an outlier.
No.
This is compliance.
You are exactly right. Thank you.
Anything else that can help Jenny with this? Well,
All right.
great job, Jenny.
Okay. I will update that and then I'll bring that to resolution for October board meeting. And then we'll be ready to roll after that. All right. The next topic we had up was cell phone procedures next steps. And I'll let you take that away. I think you were, go ahead.
Well, we had, I think it was the last Ed Services, we had the principals here, and we saw that the middle school and high school had different plans, and we were gonna wait till January to see, you know, the data from that. And personally, I think that's waiting too long. I would like to get moving on the next step before that, so I'm wondering if we could maybe get them to present at the December meeting at the latest. And just, we'll go with the data we have, Sam.
So what data are you looking for them to present at the next meeting?
That, I guess I would wanna know what violations they've had so far. Is the policy they're using now working, and why they wanna do that instead of going to the bell-to-bell situation? Why that would be better than bell-to-bell?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, yeah, two things, bell to bell or the caddies that they put in there.
Yes,
And yes, what, I mentioned that last time, that a couple of months, not necessarily January, for a month,
right.
and at least to get some data back to see what direction it's going. I think Sam asked a good question, what are you looking for as far as the data? And I guess they'll know when they see it, to some degree, you know, participation, pushback, or maybe even increase data on academics in some way. They could, I think if I were them, I'd be looking at academics to see how that affected academics, to see if there's more people are getting things done, they understand the process better, they understand the content better, there's something like that. I mean, you put that into, I think academics is part of this, I guess.
Yeah, great.
Well, that's interesting. It's kind of interesting because are we basing that on past historical data, comparing it to this kind of data for the purposes of understanding whether or not it's effective? Are we looking at outside data? Are we looking at just anecdotal data, which is the feelings of staff and students as far as productivity? I mean, I just want it to be somewhat objective if we do make a decision like that, if it's at all possible. And really, how do you do that? You can't have a control. You know, it's a challenge. And our policy seems to allow for basically the building administrator to set up the procedures that, you know, there's some flexibility. For instance, RMS happens to be more of a bell-to-bell type of, policy, I mean, within the building. I assume that our elementaries, they don't really have cell phones, but they I'm sure kids do, you know, but that's also probably going to be more of a bell-to-bell situation. High school is not. High school is, you know, you're using it, you're able to use that during lunch and passing periods. Is it necessary? I don't know.
I think one of the things you can do is survey the teachers on how, it's a feeling thing partly. How do you feel about this at the middle school, at the high school? Survey the teachers, and if they're really wanting to get into this, and they're teaching the same thing they were teaching last year, they might be able to compare results, some results in some kind of way.
Right.
And that takes some work, but I think it's worth doing. We may be the leader in that too. But I think surveying the teachers will be helpful. Do you feel, or are you getting things done more in the classroom? Are you getting better attention in the classroom? I know if I was to talk to some teachers about that, that's how they would probably respond to me. You know, they're listening better, they're responding better. I get better things back from them than I did in the year before. If they're a first-year teacher, they're not going to know that particularly. But does that sound reasonable?
It does. Sam?
Well, and this goes back to what Craig mentioned earlier about not having a control group, because I do not believe that this is the first year that the middle school is engaging in this policy. So you don't have a change from last year at the middle school. At the high school, this is the first year that they're implementing the bag policy, but we don't have, I think previous to that, it was a little bit more nebulous, is my understanding. Maybe I'm incorrect on that though. So I don't think that you really have a control group there either. And if you're measuring, this was kind of our original discussion, was we're measuring the middle school versus the high school. There might be an element of comparing apples to oranges in that case. I think it's a little bit complicated. So I'm fine with getting an update. I just don't know that the data we're going to have presented to us is going to be conclusive at that time. I think we kind of are going to have to look overall at the results of, at least a half year of school and see what's happening at each of those locations, see if we want to alter it. I think the idea was whether or not we were going to have the high school strengthen its cell phone policy and go beyond just using the caddy system. But I mean, I suppose I'm thinking like, what kind of data are you looking for? Because I'm trying to figure out what is the long-term plan there. Are you proposing rewriting the cell phone usage policy so that it's just bell to bell across the district? There's no cell phones in the schools, or they're kept in the lockers? Is that what you're looking to examine in the long run, Dan?
Well, the motivation was the book that we read as a board. And the data from that clearly pointed to bell to bell being the best, and there was student performance increased when there was, no distractions. So I would lean towards that, and I understand what you're saying, and I do agree with what Craig brought up and what David brought up. I would say yes to all of those, getting teacher surveyed, anecdotal evidence. I think all of those would be helpful. I also agree that we would get the data from these people in December and maybe not making the action at that point. But it's always, whenever you're changing policy or, guidelines, after a break, like Christmas break or something like that, it's easier to implement. And so that's why I didn't want to wait until January. But, we'll look at what the committee agrees on. Linda?
There's one other aspect that I think to take a peek at too, and that would be cyberbullying, to see if those numbers are also affected. Yes, I know everybody has their cell phone on the weekend and things like that, and that's where a lot of those came from, but maybe there will be a change in numbers of cyberbullying too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, good thought. Julie?
Well, yeah, I think the more and more schools are going bell to bell. If you look at the research, it's just, schools are tired of dealing with it and the negative part of it. But it would seem to me that some of the data that you need to help make a decision is where you started, Dan, which is how is it being enforced? What kind of infractions are they encountering? What is the frequency of the infraction? Where's that happening? Because you're gonna have infractions both places. I think when the committee was talking about setting up a comparison, it was to see if one was better than the other. And if you don't get some kind of infraction and enforcement data, you're getting anecdotal information from teachers on a relatively short period of time. I will say, I do think that, especially for the high school, that information is important for how teachers are perceiving the new plan working and its impact. Because they'll know that, if they're experienced teachers, at least a couple of years into it, they will have something to compare it to. So I think that's information that plays into a decision, but you need some, the goal is also to say, which way works best for enforcement.
Okay.
And because it's a different type of enforcement. One's on the teacher. The other really is also a lot on the administration to make sure that it's being handled right at the Riverside.
Yeah, I agree, Julie. That kind of data on infractions is going to be important, I think. You're right. And I was thinking in my own mind, you don't necessarily make a decision on this after a couple months. You just see what direction we're going.
Right.
And then you give it enough time to make the decision based on some concrete evidence that you have. And that's part of the concrete evidence.
And I want to remind those of you who were here for the last meeting that I think it was Josh Barnett who had said that there was a veteran teacher who addressed the staff and said, we've got to be on the same page and everybody's got to be consistent. And so We'll see, maybe that's gonna improve it, you know, in the classroom that way, so.
And that will be a big part of this,
Yeah.
but there's consistency in the staff.
But we always have to look at implementation of any policy we have. What's best, the easiest for those people doing the implementing.
And updates are important.
Yeah. So I guess that's what we're looking at, more that if we could get an update in December. Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I would have been, just to clarify, I would have been fine with November too. I just kind of wanted to know, like, what data are you looking for? What are the data points you're looking for, and where would those lead? Because I think that it's easier if we ask ahead of time for specific kinds of data. So, how do the teachers feel about it? And the infraction enforcement data are the two big points that I think we were looking for there. So, and then also maybe like asking teachers if they feel that it is being consistently enforced, in addition to just like kind of the, here's how many incidents there were and here's how they were handled. I think also a valuable piece of information is, as a teacher at the middle school or at the high school, do you feel that all of the staff are equally enforcing in the same way, or do you feel that that still needs to be worked on? Because if we have the high school, if at the middle school everyone says, I feel like we're all enforcing it equally, I think that's, you know, that's pretty clear there. If at the high school you still have infractions happening, but you get a high rate of teachers responding with, no, I think that it's not being equally enforced across the board by all staff, I think that that lends to it pretty majorly. Because at the end of the day, you could not have a cell phone policy outside of, it's at the teacher's discretion whether or not you can have your cell phone out in class. And if everyone enforced it with kind of an equal sense, there would be very few issues. So I think that's an important thing to look at.
Is this being done with a little survey? Is that how we're doing? Because, you know, how is this information gonna be grasped? Because if we're asking for a survey, you don't want that question to be pitting teachers against one another. You know, it has to be asked in a very positive way, you know, so that.
Yeah, it might be, and again, they would have to know what the survey, if we're talking survey, the administrators are gonna have to know how this is supposed to be done too. And ask the question, are you doing this? You know, and you ask it individually and each one, are you, of course, they're gonna be squealing on themselves if they're not doing it, but that's better than having someone else do that. But I can tell you for sure, there are teachers out there in the high school that do what they're supposed to do and others that don't.
If you give them three choices, most of the time, all the time, or not at all.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at least,
Yeah,
you know.
it's something like that where they can fill that out
So then,
themselves. Go ahead.
you got your hand up, or go ahead.
Yeah, so I think perhaps maybe, I think I heard Julie suggest that where there's a disciplinary infraction at the high school, for instance, with a cell phone, is that happening during a time like passing period before and after school, during, lunchtime, that sort of thing? Or are those infractions happening during class periods? So that might be able to provide you a data set, right there. When is it occurring? I mean, when I say we, I guess myself and perhaps Dan and Sam have experienced where those issues come about during expulsion hearings where we see that behaviors are a problem during passing periods with cell phones. But, so I know there's probably something out there.
And then one last thing, can we ask the teachers, is this your first year teaching, so that it's indicative of, or asking how many years they've been teaching or something like that?
I was gonna say, if we're going to have this data brought back to us in December, I don't know what the timeline is. Could we either do a small subcommittee or bring it to November's Ed Services meeting to do a perception survey of the teachers on that subject. And have those questions specifically ironed out.
So what I'm hearing potentially is November, a draft of the survey to the teachers, December data back. I know Sarah and I were just talking about timing as it relates to the next Ed Services.
We need to have some help on what we want.
Certainly work on that piece.
Then we would need a subcommittee to create the survey, correct?
Or
Or we can
you guys can just do
administratively
it.
create it and then bring it for feedback.
All right.
I'm gonna send you an email with my notes of like action items that I've been keeping track of all evening. So I've got some notes about what people were bringing up of what they would like to see in questions for the teachers and from the infraction enforcement data.
Sure, I appreciate that.
That's great.
I hope it's not too long.
No, we'll throw it into chat or we'll throw it into Ask Us. A nice survey.
Okay,
Is it possible to send that survey out before, like, Christmas? I mean, like way before Christmas. I just know that staff get pretty taxed with all sorts of correspondence, and it's just, you don't want to fatigue your staff with another survey, especially one that, you want to be able to use that data intentionally for decision making. You definitely want to have a good response rate as well.
If the next Ed Services meeting is on November 4th, we would not need to have this survey approved by the full board, would we? Because in that case, we would need to wait until.
I don't think you need to have a board approval survey at all. I mean, if it's administration sending out a survey.
Okay.
I will give caution that we have really quick turnaround between now and November, because it's 3 weeks the way it falls, and then December is very early in the month as well. That's nice though, because it's 4 weeks between November and December, just knowing that we have a really quick turnaround into the November meeting too.
Jelaine?
No, I'm just, sorry.
Okay.
Thinking.
All right, good. Let's go on to the last discussion item, board communication and event presence. And I think we have 3 people or actually 4. We have 4 people who have experience with that. So anybody want to start out?
I just want to put a note in. I did upload a document that was a Jason Bull working document. I know he had been working with the planning committee to work through the process of board communications. And I know that that was a document that he put out as just a document for feedback. And within that document outlines 2 different board communication strategies, as I understand it. Videos after the Board of Education meeting, and then also the events presence piece. I know, Dan, you had wanted to just touch base and see how the event presence piece was going and have a discussion about that. So just wanted to add that caveat that it did come from our planning committee.
I just want to make sure I read it properly.
Well, since they're talking down there, I'll just jump in.
Go ahead.
Craig and I did RMS on the parent-teacher conferences last Thursday. I needed to leave because, duties never conflict, but they often overlap. So I left. I was there a little before 4 and left a little after 6 to make it to a football game across from Webster. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. So it's a very easy thing to do, to hand out a piece of information, talk to them about the QR code, encourage them to give us their feedback. And I can't speak for what happened after I left, but while I was there, I encountered nothing that came across as incredibly negative. People took the information, some were, more friendly about it than others, but I think the value of these things is way, way beyond handing out literature.
Mm-hmm.
The value is being seen and showing interest in what's happening in these schools. I think Mike and Leanne were both there in the building, of course, all evening. And I think they honestly appreciated that there were people there showing interest. Parents were, a little surprised to see it. 4 people there at the right there as you walk in. And I think a lot of parents responded very positively to our presence. So, and I enjoyed just the opportunity in a consolidated fashion to go in and meet and interact with some of the elective teachers who were in the cafeteria behind us, and then go over to the gym and interact with some of the core teachers. And had wonderful, I think, productive conversations. They were certainly helpful to me. One of the RMS elective teachers, I'm never gonna get her name, but her room had been redesigned over the summer. And when she found out I was at Worman, she got to see my classroom, And so she took me down, and just so proud of it. And it had been completely redone to her specs to accommodate what she's trying to do in that electives classroom. And it was just fun to see a teacher who's so excited about where she works and what's being accomplished in there. I'm going over there tomorrow to visit, but I might not have gotten into that classroom. But just those interactions are, in my opinion, man, that's money in the bank. All of that, just money in the bank. So that's
Craig, did everything
that's
fall
the
apart?
main reason
after
I'm
you
here at
left?
this meeting. What'd you say?
I said, did everything fall apart after you left? But,
No, I'm sure it didn't.
No, I love interacting with parents and students, getting a chance to see the students. And, I love it. I felt like it went really well. I wanted to try to set people at ease with the messaging. Hey, listen, I understand you may have particular feelings one way or another, but this is a heads up for a survey that's coming out at the end of the month. Here is your chance to pass feedback to the district so that we get the question right. Assuming that we want to move forward with an operational referendum, here's where you can find more information about the need for the referendum, and then also contact information for the board. We're looking forward to hearing your feedback, and just keep it light, keep it at that. And some people decide to share some thoughts, then I'm gonna listen. But again, overall, overwhelmingly, it was fun. I love the people that we serve.
Just a quick note, I thought the piece is well done and accomplishes what we needed to do.
Very good. Okay. You guys went to Schurz.
We went to Webster.
Webster.
Yeah, I'll just say something and then I'll let Linda say something. I agree with what Julian said, 100%. I mean, that is bigger than passing out the things. It's to see you there. Brad Clark did a great job. I've known Brad a little bit before. And he put us down in the library because they were having a scholastic book fair down there. And that's where the parents were going to go after they had their conferences. And a lot of them did. We were down there, we're handing things out just like Craig said. And it was good to talk with them. It was good to give them those. And most of them, I say 99% of the people were very gracious and took them and smiled and said, think, okay, I'll do this. My name said that. I hope they do. And so we were having a really good time. And one person talked to us who was a bus driver and in the district, and she had some issues, and she presented that very well, very nicely to us. We wrote it down. Brad made a copy of that, and I probably need to share that with Jared. And I don't know if Linda needs to share that or not with this. Do you guys want to know what she said?
And not for this discussion.
Okay, good. All right. Then near the end, there was a lady that hadn't got one of the brochures, and so Linda gave it to her, and I'll let Linda tell what happened in that situation.
I will precede this though with, there were many children and adults that gave me hugs because in the community, I do the Share the Love Kids Outreaches events, and I cannot tell you the joy that brought. And I think, I just thank the district the opportunity to be able to interact, and then realize that there's 1% of people that, she was about 3 inches from my face and said how much she hated the school board and wondered why I didn't have children in the district. And I said, I'm too old.
That was her point.
Ed felt that David and I were forced to come. And I had shared that we had volunteered, and I listened, and I love listening to people that are upset. I know that sounds odd, but I realize there's something in that person that's driving them. And, without belaboring, she was escalating and I was de-escalating by my demeanor, and I genuinely have concerns for her ramping up to that point that she felt it necessary to drag every person in the entire library, children and adults, into her conversation. I'm saying conversation because I listened and I nodded and I did acknowledge the fact that I've answered every email back except for one person. I don't know how to answer back, but she said that she wasn't being acknowledged, and I said, "Are you sure I didn't?" Because I've emailed every single person back, and then she acknowledged maybe she hadn't personally to me in the last couple months, but she did end up eventually saying she would definitely use her survey to express her viewpoints. I guess would be that.
Yeah.
But she was very upset, and then because I wasn't engaging, she tried to engage Dave, and we both handled, in a calming way. And I think it spoke to the all the volunteers at the Scholastic Book Fair and the new librarian who came from Oconomowoc, because we did not engage negatively whatsoever, and we kept it very professional and civil, and yet friendly and kind to all those. And we continued on then with the other people that were there. So if you want to add anything.
Well, I could tell, being a man, that she was really even more upset. And but she mentioned a couple of board members she didn't like. And so she did the same thing with me that she did with Linda. And she was very loud and very upset. And it was all you had to do was just stand there and listen. That's all you could do. Because when somebody's in that fashion, there's nothing going to be gained by arguing or responding back. And so she said her piece, and then somebody was backing her up, another lady. I thought the same thing Linda did. I thought there's people in here, there's children in here. And the librarian said to me later, she actually sent for Brad to come down. And by the time he got there, they were gone. And so she said, "You got attacked, didn't you?" I said, "Well, I guess." It kind of felt like that.
Is there any additional supports or things that you might need from administration for future events? Generally, I hear positive.
Yeah.
Mr. Wortman, I heard you help clean up the cafeteria and reorganize all the tables afterwards too, which was very much appreciated.
So it wasn't, Linda and I both know that people are going to feel that way. And that's not the first time I've been yelled at, although it's been a while, principal. And like Linda said, she's coming from a point that she has for herself, and she was making a point that everybody could hear. She did it on purpose. So what was brought to me by another board member is that she thought it would be a good idea, Tammy, that we had maybe a policy between us as board members on how to respond to something like that, or how not to respond to something like that. And because it can go really bad if you respond the wrong way, it can be even worse. And so, Linda, I thought she explained it really well. My feeling is the same. It's something that happened, not the end of the world. And so.
And in regards to the other person that she dragged in, I will mention one thing. That person had brought her 3 children to be able to express a public comment at the previous meeting, and but you know, we were unawares that she brought her 3 children. She didn't want to keep them up past their bedtime. I would say to the public, if the public could, if they see children there and someone wanting to make a public comment and they have their own children there for whatever teaching opportunity that they're making there, that the public just be courteous to let them go first so that they can then, you know, have their bedtime. We didn't know that, so there's no way we know that, but just, I'm
Yeah.
just,
Part of that conversation, you probably should stick with the policy committee and know that that's.
Yeah, we're having a discussion about that tomorrow.
Right.
About public comment
perfect.
Okay,
more
that's-
broadly.
That's good.
Okay,
That's
but
good.
if there's young children, maybe go first. I don't know, but we
Yeah,
can't.
that'll be part of that discussion. I think you're on policy, right?
Yes.
And if you want to come, by all means, do so. But yeah, we'll talk about all the ins and outs. So that's great feedback, Erin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys for sharing and putting the time, in. It's extra time, you know.
It was actually fun to do, and actually it was a good thing.
Good, very good. So, and we have other openings, you know, that we can fill later on, but I think it's important too. So if there's nothing else,
We did have a just short discussion on bullying administrative guidelines and next steps. I don't know if you want to have that discussion now or.
looking at the time, I think we're gonna put that off at least another month. So unless, I know Linda, you were prepared to share something on that.
No, not really.
Okay, all right.
But I do like the board briefs as the video name, as for the, back to the communications thing, the monthly Board of Education videos. I think board briefs really nails it as a name, you know, as that. Try looking up other nouns and there's.
Good. Yeah, all right. If there's nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn? So,
A second.
okay. You got that?
None to do as adjournment.
All right, very good. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Yeah.